Crew Pros, your single source for high-quality, affordable home services. If you are remodeling, repairing, or replacing, Crew Pros are the professionals that can do the job no matter the size. If you are thinking of remodeling your kitchen or bath, needing a new HVAC system, plumbing repairs, flooring, or a complete roof replacement, call Crew Pros. Crew Pros, proud sponsor of the Grizz 901 podcast.
Memphis. Nothing but Memphis. Everywhere we go, it's Memphis. Memphis, Tennessee, the beautiful land in the world.
And I'm thankful for this guy who tweeted and said I don't have that fire in my eye no more. That game right there was for him. That's what I do. I prove people wrong each and every night, and that's for him right there.
Hi, this is Tom Izzo at Michigan State, and you're listening to Grizz 901.
Grizz Nation, and welcome back to another episode of Grizz 901. We are presented to you by Zach Jaworski State Farm. I haven't done this in a week, so I am very, very rusty. And weirdly enough, we have the full trio here. I'm your host, Daniel Greer. We have Nate and Ryan with us as well. What's up, guys?
Hey,
not everybody at once. Oh, okay, finally. We're here doing the Postgame show. What is happening? All right,
I was going to say the clearest you're going to hear Nate is in the Crew Pros ad.
Damn. All right, that's a shot across the bow. I love it already. All right, so real quick, let's get into it, man. Tonight was awesome. I'm not gonna lie. I saw, I would say 90%, maybe 95% of the game. I was having to go back and forth. I had to go eat dinner once. It was a quick dinner. It was we're celebrating my in-laws' wife's birthday, whatever she is. So we celebrated her birthday, and it was a great time. But I was able to catch a majority of the game, and it was awesome. It's awesome in MSG. Everything seems to be a little bit more special. But Ryan, let's go to you first. Anything that on the game that just kind of stuck out to you?
No, I thought it was a great game. Two, I would say, pretty even teams, like makeup wise. So it was pretty entertaining. Like when the Grizzlies took that 10 to 12 point lead, it's like there's no way this isn't going to be close at the end. And it came down to a couple crunch time plays that were kind of really fortunate towards the Grizzlies, I thought. So they got kind of the luck of the bounce of the ball in the final 30 seconds or so. So fortunate to get out of there a victory, but it was a really entertaining game to watch if you watched it.
Yeah. Anything for you, Nate?
Really good win for Memphis. I mean, pick up in lifetime mode where he just for 6 or 7 minutes. And so when they're doing that on our home floor, a lot of Grizzlies and a lot of good stuff I thought from Josh, Jaren, Dylan, a lot of good stuff from a lot.
All right, well, we might have to excuse Nate here shortly because literally, I think I got 12 of the 74 words that he said. So not sure. We're gonna give him another try. But honestly, like my thoughts on this game was, we continue as the Grizzlies. Like I know a lot of people have so many issues revolving around, coaches and players or whatever. But at the end of the day, the Grizzlies have the best player on the court 90% of the nights. There's very few times when the Grizzlies suit up and they don't have the best player on the court. And now that we're getting Jaren back, and Jaren, who honestly, Ryan talked me out of going with my play. I had him for over 15.5 points. I chose the blocks because he didn't want me to do that. But in the end of the day, Jaren has looked so much better, but he's not a creator. And that's the biggest thing that I see with this team is without Desmond Bane, you have to figure out a way, those 6 short minutes that seem like an eternity when Ja is off the court getting his rest, whether it's the end of the first or whether he plays the whole first, like those 6 minutes are so, so important. And so if you can have guys step up in any way, no matter who it is, that's really what sets this team apart. But when Ja is not on the court, that's the biggest thing. And so that's my biggest takeaway is Desmond Bane not being on the court has consistently been the biggest issue going forward. But a triple-double out of Ja, that was the biggest thing, man. Ja being able to do that in MSG after we were getting Barkley talking the ish about what he's saying about not getting his teammates better. Like, how satisfying is that? Nate, let's go to you first. We'll see if we can get your audio any better.
Put my mic as far away from my face to avoid any better. Worse? Better?
Brian?
The same?
Crew pros. You're one single source.
Yeah,
all right. No, I'm not doing this.
Nate, we love you, Nate. We'll see you later, man. It's bad. Sorry. Brian, triple-double for Ja. Sorry, we had to excuse Nate on that one. His audio just has not been good. But what do you see with Ja, man? Because that is like him being able to do that is like that's big time. That's superstar-ish.
Yeah, the thing about Charles is I think Charles kind of phrased it wrong. Ja absolutely makes his teammates better. The thing about Ja is he hasn't learned how to control the game, if that makes sense. Like, know when to get guys going. And tonight, like, he was starting by running into a brick wall trying to challenge, Mitchell down low, and then was like, okay, they're going to drop 3 people on me every time I touch the paint. Let me start finding these other guys. So Chuck saying that Ja doesn't make teammates better is wrong, but I think saying that Ja doesn't quite grasp yet how to control a game depending on what a team is throwing at him, I think that's more of a fair statement. And I think throughout the game he kind of figured that out, even though when we got towards the end it went back to the same old, everybody staying around, Ja just dribble the shot clock out and let's see what he can create for us. But that's, most NBA teams are going to do that with their best player. Like, they're not going to run, some really fancy offensive set. Typically, they're usually just going to give their best player the ball and say, go get it for me. And that's why he's one of the best in the NBA, right? Like, the reason we won the game is because we had Ja Morant and they didn't.
Yeah.
And that's what it is for a lot of these games. And that's why when we get Bane back, even though we don't feel like an above 500 team that's, top 5 or 6 in the West with Bane back with the full roster that we have, like, I just don't see how we're not top 3, top 2 in the West. Like, realistically.
Well, literally, like, I know this is the softer part of our schedule right now, but my God, did we need it. But realistically, we should be healthy. And I know that's a caveat because we should be healthy going into the hardest part, which is the Christmas time run, which is going to be a good portion going all the way through January. But what I'm seeing with this team is you're starting to see these key guys find their home, such as LaRavia. He's not been awesome. Okay. I don't want to completely break him down, but I'm not going to build him up. I'm going to keep it real. He's not been awesome. But what he's doing right now is he's finding his role. And you know what? Tonight, what did he play? Let me see this real quick. Sorry, on away games, we don't get the full breakdown. And so I'm very I'm having to do what everybody else does. But LaRavia played his 15 minutes, 2 of 2 from the field, both 3-pointers, 6 points, 2 assists, a rebound. Did not hurt us. He's not playing great defense, but he's playing his 15 minutes, what a rookie should be playing. This is his role. This is what he's supposed to be doing. Same thing with Roddy, 13 minutes, 2 of 4 from 3. He had a rebound, 6 points as well. These are the positions. These are the roles that we're actually supposed to have with these rookies. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I'm seeing right now is we're finding these players finally find themselves and find their roles that they're actually supposed to be playing. Because realistically, LaRavia and Roddy are not supposed to be playing over 15 minutes on a consistent basis. That's not what they're supposed to be doing right now, being in their first year into the league, just trying to figure it out, in all honesty. But let's talk a little bit about Dylan Brooks. He's been the biggest thing. I want to say it's Everything Grizzlies or at Everything Grizzlies. I don't really know what his Twitter handle is off the top of my head, but he's the one that said, let's start a conversation and let's talk about extending Dylan Brooks. I want to get because I have not talked to you about anything Grizzlies related. Little caveat, I was super sick this whole past week, in and out of the Thanksgiving holidays as well. So being a lot of that, I was not able to do any Grizz 901 stuff. And so that's kind of why I have not had any kind of podcast come out from the main Grizz 901 stuff. Is because of being sick in the holidays and all that kind of stuff. But me and you have not talked about Dylan Brooks. We haven't talked Grizzlies literally in a week or so. So what's your thoughts on DB, Dylan Brooks? Because, man, there's a lot of conversation going on within Grizz Twitter right now.
Yeah, I don't mind re-signing him at the right price.
What is it? What is the price?
It's going to have to be similar to what he's getting now, or maybe a little less. But there also kind of has to be a caveat that, like, look, eventually you're going to be our bench guy. Because he is not someone that I want to sign up with John Bain for the future as a starter. Fine with the player. Yeah. I think he's okay. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's terrible. He's just average to me. I certainly don't think he's additive. And I think a lot of people can kind of get caught up in he plays defense and he plays tough. Like, he's not that great of a defender if you really watch him. Like, he's just physical. And if refs are calling the cheap stuff on him, then he fouls out, right? He fouled out late tonight. And if he can't be physical with teams, like, say, against the Warriors, then he's a negative. But that's why I'm fine with him being signed on a cheaper deal if it kind of has a caveat of like, hey, your role is going to kind of diminish. Now, that's kind of tough to do to a guy who's been with one organization, who's always been a starter. That's probably a really difficult decision to have if you're a front office with a guy like that and for someone to buy in like that. But, like, to be honest with Dylan, I don't think he really has another choice, right? Like, it's not like he has anything to be like, oh, well, if I'm going to be like, it's like Jay Crowder situation, like, like Jay Crowder's going to tell the Suns that he's a starter or he's not playing. Okay, the Suns are just going to go out and be the best team in the West. Like, we don't need you. If you want to accept this role, then we'll be happy to have you. But if you're not, then you're not hurting us by just walking. And you always are like, it's potential for you to have that kind of situation with Dylan if you tell him that, but it would have to be like a Jay Crowder thing. Like, no, you're not going to start, dude, but we'd love you to be a part of the team. But going forward, we think that it's better if you're coming off the bench for us, because that's what he is. He's like a bench replacement player.
So, and so in the perfect world, him coming off the bench, obviously, 6-man, sign me up. But at what money? Because he's 26, right? What 26-year-old going into a contract would say, hey, sign me up for 2 years, $20 million? That gets you to be, you get to sign back just like Tyus. Tyus is signing into his prime. After his 2 years. Same thing would be with Dylan, that he's roughly going to be 28, 29, but you're talking about falling off the cliff potentially after that. So do you think he would even sign that? Because I think Chris, who he's brought up a bunch of stuff in the chat. If you have a chat question, feel free. If you're hearing this on the podcast the next day, join us on YouTube, ask questions. I'll be more than happy to answer some things and kind of chit chat about anything that you might have. But Chris here is saying, like, beware of the extension playing Dylan, because we saw this 3 years ago. Like, when he's up for a contract, because contract players, they want what? They want to do the best they can because they want their money. And so that's what he's pretty much saying. So would you be okay with signing him? And I don't want this to be about Dylan. We'll get into the game, back into the game. But would you be okay signing Dylan for 2 years, 20 each? So 40 total.
Oh, no. If you're saying 20 total, yeah, sure. I'll sign him for that. But
Okay.
I'm not going to allocate 20 million a year to Dylan. No way.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think that's possible. All right, so we'll move off of Dylan a little bit, but yeah, he went. Dude, Brunson was cooking tonight. Let's get into the Knicks a little bit. Like, what would you see? What'd you see out of them that you might have liked? Because I like this team sometimes, and sometimes they suck. And I know every team can potentially just suck, but like it's like the Timberwolves. Like when it's going, when they figure out whatever that little bit is, dude, they are awesome. But man, there's a lot of games they just suck. So what did you see out of them? Because I like this Knicks team, weirdly enough.
Yeah, the Knicks are funky, which always interests
Funky.
me is as an NBA team because it's like they can go 0-6 for 2 weeks and then rattle off like 10 straight wins. Like it doesn't make sense with this team. And it's
Yeah.
purely based on if their 3-point shot is going. I mean, I think this is one of the worst, if not the worst. No, not the worst. I think the Lakers still hold that banner, but worst 3-point shooting team in the league. So, I mean, RJ Barrett has been going through a polite way to say that is an extended cold streak.
Yeah.
Now he got off a little bit tonight because he could get to the basket,
Right.
and he can be more physical with Dylan, who is guarding him on a lot of those. So that's kind of more of RJ's game, right? He's not about finesse; he's kind of more about power. So it kind of matched up well with Dylan, who's all about power defensively. But I look, Jalen Brunson has made me a lot of money because you know that from the very beginning that I've been telling you, his assist prop is a gold mine. And for like the first couple games, it was 4.5, and I couldn't believe it. And I pounded every over. And I only think he lost one time out of that 2-week stretch of games. But they've adjusted all the way to 6.5 to 7.5, depending on the opponent.
Yeah,
And
it's crazy.
he still got it over tonight. Like
Yeah.
I still sometimes will
9.
play it because he's pretty good. Like he's a good basketball player. Now he's kind of opposite of the guard you kind of want in today's NBA, right? Like he's
Right.
a undersized guard who will take you down the post and just work you old school like Kevin McHale. He's not like a flashy 3-point shooting, overwhelm you physically kind of guard. He's just like a crafty guard. But this Knicks team without Jalen Brunson, good God, where would it be?
Yeah.
Like that's literally how much a sort of pseudo point guard changes the team for them. And I wouldn't say he's really a full point guard, but yeah, like Quentin Grimes, I never got the Quentin Grimes hype. Like I watched him at Kansas, he transferred over to Houston, and he was always super inconsistent to me. That I liked him at first, and then I saw how terrible he was at Kansas, and I'm like, nah, never again. And so it's kind of surprising to see Tibbs. Like I thought Tibbs did a lot of weird things in this game. Um, I know that Evan Fournier has come out lately with being unhappy with his playing time, right? Like I don't think he saw the floor
Yeah.
at all. I don't know if he was sick or out or not for the game. I didn't check, but like Fournier in this kind of game is the player they need, right? Like he's the outside shooting. Like it's not a coincidence that they stopped playing Evan Fournier and their shooting fell off a cliff. Like there's just nobody out there that can spread the floor. So now you're relying on Julius Randle, who has been up and down, and then Mitchell Robinson, who's a 0 on offense if he's not offensive rebounding or getting an alley oop. So it's just a lot to put on Brunson and other guard I was just talking about.
RJ Barrett.
Yeah, RJ Barrett. So it's just a lot on them. And I think Jalen has brought it, but everybody else has really been inconsistent. And that's why the Knicks are where they are.
Yeah. So question out of the chat is so with Anderson, it's not more, I guess it isn't a question, but it's more of a statement, but I want to turn it into a question a little bit. With Anderson and Melton gone, obviously the defensive depth is kind of, it's pretty much, it's just not there. So we are a big team. You know how they want to go after the 6'8", 6'10", stretch 3, stretch 4s. kind of more lengthy players, and that's kind of what Aldama is in a sense, and that's kind of the reason they went and got him. And you can look at LaRavia in the same sense. Roddy isn't that player, but he's the bigger player that has the footwork, such as Junior. Junior's the footwork with a big guy, so they're trying to go after players like that. The Grizzlies are ranked, what is it, 17th, 16th in paint points allowed this year. And they are roughly 2 points higher in the paint than they were last year. What do you think the reason is because, and that's what Ian John asked, and I'll put this on the screen as well for people to see it. But why do you think our interior defense is so bad this year? Because it's not that it's crazy bad, but it just looks like it's just so much worse. Is it the rebounding?
I mean, rebounding probably plays into that because I know they at one point were the worst defensive rebounding team. Now that was without Jaren. I haven't looked at it since he's been back, but Jaren's not really much of a rebounder to begin with, so I'm not sure how much that will impact that. But to me, it's like all of our perimeter guys are just small. Like it's John Conchar, who's not an elite size or speed.
But he's a good rebounder.
But he's a good rebounder. Jaren is really the only rim protector. Like Steven's not really a rim protector. He'll get one every once in a while, but he's not like preventing people from going at him, right? And I think what happens with now Aldama has been good and especially help rotation defense. And to me, that kind of bleeds to the fact that most of our guys are scheme defenders, not just one-on-one lock you up guys.
Yeah.
Which I think is why people have such a fight over Dylan, right? Like Dylan can at least somewhat hold his own one-on-one on the perimeter, depending on who it's against. But everyone else, like it has to be about scheme to kind of hide all their flaws. And if not, then we're fouling. So I just don't think that's really going to change at all. The only thing that can change with that is, Zaire coming back. If we get anything out of Danny Green, like Danny Green's always been a good kind of scheme rotation defender. He has.
Dude, he's a good assistant coach right now. He's a really expensive assistant. That's all he's going to be, man. Sorry.
Yeah, but Danny Green, like, that's what he's best for, right? Like, is his defense. He's been a good defender for a long time. Not saying that he's going to be that coming back, but who knows what we're going to get out of him, how Zaire's going to be back. So I think the length coming back will be helpful.
Yeah.
But we just don't have a lot of guys with elite size and speed that, can just stay in front of people all the time without fouling. Like, I think that's why at the very end, it was very clear to me why Roddy comes in before Jake. Like, Jake is just going to foul. Like, that's just what he does. Like, he is super foul prone. So I thought it said a lot that once the Knicks took that timeout for the final shot, they subbed in Roddy, right? Which I was kind of pulling my hair out at, but they got the stop and got the win. So I think it's more about scheme instead of the guys can just sit in front of guys and just keep them out of the paint. I just don't think we have a lot of guys like that.
Yeah. Well, I've been saying this, and Ian brought this up. The non-Brooks minutes, should we play zone? Because obviously we're having rookies out there, LaRavia, Roddy. They're in there. Obviously, they are not good. I want to give a shout out to Aldama, who is good. I think he's a plus defender. I think he's honestly been a breath of fresh air for this Grizzlies team, and he's a guy who's kind of been one of the key pieces to the reason the Grizzlies are as good as they are outside of Ja, Dez, and even probably Steve-O in a sense, because dude, he's played some big minutes and hit some big shots, made some big plays. But I've talked about this many times on the podcast is simply that they're going to a 3-2 matchup zone type defense. And a lot of times what you're going to see is when they get down the court, you're going to see probably a BC, Brandon Clark, running to the top of the zone. And 3-2 is the three guys at the top, 2 at the bottom, right outside, because you can't have anybody. You can't play a 2-1-2, a 2-3 type defense. It's a 3-2. But what that does is that actually allows them to understand a spot, a zone, like an area, and have a rotation in mind, such as when it's a handoff, we automatically switch. You're in this zone, and if 2 players come together, which they do because of pick and rolls, literally you stay in your side, I'll stay in my side, and if they shoot it over top of us, it is what it is. But you're playing up on them to take away the shot, and then if they split, then you take your guy, whoever goes your way, and vice versa. That's literally what they have been doing, and it's worked for the simple fact that it helps these younger guys who can be taken advantage of because they're not up to speed with the NBA game. They're just not yet. The game is so much faster. And if you ever play any kind of pickup ball and you are used to a certain type of basketball, go somewhere completely different. So if you're going in the church leagues and you play church league old man basketball, take it to the streets and go play that type of basketball. And I promise you, it'll be so fast and you'll understand how basketball just seems faster. There's nothing really that much different. It just seems faster because it's a different style of play. And so a lot of these guys are having to get used to that, having to get used to the fast pace of the NBA. And that's why I say that the reason that Junior is down in the G League is because they're trying to give him like the next step up. Is the G League. The G League, I don't know if you've seen it. It is a slow, methodical offense. It's not that fast, not compared to the NBA. And so they're trying to kind of ramp him up and get him ready. But I don't want to go off of my soapbox on that one. But they are playing very much zone. A lot of times they are playing the 3-2, which is the matchup zone. And so I think that has been big. I don't know if I actually saw that tonight. Did you see any kind of a zone type defense?
No, I didn't notice one that stuck out particularly to me. And the thing with zone or man, I'm personally going to always side on the side of throwing you in the deep end,
right,
and figuring it out. So I would much rather Roddy, Jake, Santi, like I prefer them to play man and just have to learn to stick in front of your man, like learn the little tips and tricks. Because Dylan has learned all the little tips and tricks on how to kind of cheat and what to expect, which if they'll ever get it, who knows? But with how bad they've been, I mean, we're still 12-8, something like that.
3rd in the West.
So 12-8, they haven't killed us, but it also hasn't been just their fault either. So I always side more on the continue to play man, learn how to actually play in front of somebody, and kind of figure out as you go, instead of kind of letting guys off a little bit for playing zone. Because I think if they played zone tonight, like the Knicks killed them on the offensive boards. Now we killed them on the offensive boards too, but in zone, it would have probably led to even more offensive rebounds.
Yeah.
So I didn't certainly notice it. If they tried it, it looked like just pretty straight up man to me for the most part.
Out of all the starters from the Grizzlies, who did not have an assist tonight?
Jaren. I know it. I know it because I bet it.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. 2 things, and we won't spend too much longer on here. We've hit the 30-minute mark. I always try to say 30, 45 minutes. But real quick, though, if for some reason you are coming in here from Spaces, thank you. But if you are not, go over to, is it Spaces, @Spaces Grizzlies? Go over to there anytime, whenever the game ends. They're always going to have a show. Majority of the time, we're gonna have shows on a normal basis, especially going forward. And so we're going to be here probably about 30 to 45 minutes after the game ends. So we have some time to kind of look over some stuff. Me, it's mainly just to get my kids in bed if they're not asleep yet. And so that helps me personally. But just go over there, check out them, hang out with them. If you want to go up on stage, feel free to hop up there. Good crew over there. But yeah, it's good times. But two more things I want to hit on real quick. The first thing, is there anybody on this Knicks team that you would like to have on the Grizzlies? I like to ask this question because it's fun. Just look at their roster. Is there anything you like?
Like
go shopping.
I could realistically get, or just I'll take him.
Let's do both. Who's the guy that you love? Like, if you could have him on our team, like, who is that guy?
Sure, I'd take Jalen Brunson in a heartbeat.
Okay.
If I can just pick anybody, yeah, I'll take Jalen Brunson. Absolutely. A wishful guy that's probably more realistic. Boy, I gotta try to think of the Knicks bench. Because contrary to certain people, I'm not a big Obi Toppin fan.
Me either.
I'm not even a huge Quickly fan. I know I saw that coming around the Grizz Twitter of let's go get Quickly, and I was like, no thanks. Yeah. I have enough of shoot first guards who don't play any defense. I guess if I'm looking for a value player, I guess I'd take Mitchell Robinson.
Oh my God. No. All right. First of all, he's under contract. This is realistic at this point because you've already used your Jalen Brunson. No way we can get him kind of play. All right. So same thing, Mitchell Robinson. I don't think we can get him. Even if we could, I would rather have Steve-O. I'm not going to lie. Even though Mitchell Robinson is good.
Mitchell wouldn't be a starter. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, he'd be backup. He just signed like a big $15 million contract. Anyway, so my guy, and Ian did this, and shout out to Ian for just randomly finding us on YouTube, but Cam Reddish, like I don't know if you know where he went to school at, Ryan. Yes, he's a Dookie. But I've always wanted Cam Reddish. He's not expensive. He's got he's on an expiring contract, a 5-year contract. Like, I don't know if you can get him and extend him. I don't know if that's even possible. But I think that a guy like Cam Reddish, who you could bring off of the bench as of right now, a cheap deal. But that would have to take the Knicks probably blowing it up a little bit because there's no way they're just going to get rid of him for nothing. But he's fallen out of favor with Tibbs many a times. And so all it takes is Tibbs to eat a sandwich too big that week. And maybe he has an upset stomach and he doesn't like Cam Reddish. Maybe he has Reddish on his hot dog. Was it relish on his hot dog, and it makes him think of.
I was about to say the phrasing. The phrasing of that was very poor.
It was bad. Yeah. Go ahead. Keep going.
No, to say about Cam Reddish, I've never been a huge fan. Now I certainly get it. He's kind of a microwave scorer off your bench guy, right?
Yeah.
But one of the questionable things that I thought Tibbs did tonight was after that timeout for the Grizzlies at the end when they were down 1, he left Reddish in to guard Ja. Like, that's kind of head scratching. So thanks for that one, because that's really what led to Ja having that wide open back door, right? Like, it was a set play. Like, as soon as Ja saw that Reddish was guarding him, like, he clued Steve-O right away. Hey, I'm going to do this. And it was wide open. Now they did crash over and, closed down on him pretty quick with Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle. But that was the fortunate thing. Like, sometimes you just have to be fortunate. That missed forced shot bounced right back to Ja for the putback. But Cam would certainly be a situational guy, 100%. Like, if the offense is just not going, here you go, plug him in. Let's see if he can heat up and get 7 or 8 real quick in a couple minutes. I certainly wouldn't take him expecting him to contribute consistent, regular rotation minutes for me personally.
Yeah, and that's the thing is everybody wants to do the trades, and I get it completely. Like trades are so much fun. I have literally a running list that we're going to put out at some point of like all I could wish for Christmas, or these guys on this team. But the problem is you have to get rid of players to get players via trade. Like that's one of the rules. Like I didn't make the rules, but in a trade you have to give up something to get something. I think it like happened probably a long time ago. It might have been Thanksgiving time where you had to trade some stuff. I don't know. I want to get down that rabbit hole, get in trouble, get cancel cultured somehow, where my thought process was going. But I think that you have to give up something to get it, right? That makes sense. But who do you give up? Like the Grizzlies are not walking away from Zaire, Roddy, or Laravia. They're not walking away from Bane, Jaren, Ja. Like they're not walking away from those dudes. Like, so you have to give up something to get something. I don't know what you're giving up besides Dylan Brooks. And at that point, you're giving up Dylan Brooks to get back a Cam Reddish. That doesn't make sense. You obviously the money doesn't work either. So like the whole trade stuff is so much fun and I get it, but I don't know what you do, because if you do give up somebody who is, less of a player that maybe you can get him on a cheaper deal long term, if you're doing somebody like a Cam Reddish, with a, Dylan Brooks out, even at that point, like you aren't getting better. Like you aren't. So that's why I always ask and see what players people are looking at, because like on this team, they still have to consolidate at some point. And the only thing that you can do is eventually just say, hey, like literally, we're going to try to just load up. And if these rookies pan out, they pan out, because they're going to figure it out. And they're probably going to figure it out in the G League. But if not, if you want these rookies to play, they have to have a spot. And I think Santi has he's got a spot. Tyus has a spot. BC, for the most part, has a spot. He's kind of a little crazy right now. Like he's a very unintelligent basketball player, low IQ basketball player. I like his athleticism in a matchup type, game. But those guys all have spots. Conchar has been starting, and he's playing very well alongside Ja in the absence of Bane. He's got a spot. Like there's really not much, room for somebody to come in and take over a position or a spot on this team in the 10-man rotation. So it's going to be very difficult. But before we get into the game predictions between the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies, and I know you're our NBA guy, you're always looking around the league, you're watching a little bit of everything. And make sure you go check out the Grizz 901 podcast. We now have added free basketball with Ryan. He is the main host. I used to be on that show. But now it's just Ryan and Cody, and you'll probably hear me on a little bit of every show. But you also have the No Bluffing podcast that comes out as well. It's very raw. They kind of get after it a little bit more, a different style, a fan style podcast, kind of give you a little bit of their true feelings. There's no like polish to it at all. It's just, it's very raw, very good. Chris does a really good job of his team over there.
Agreed.
So, yeah, so those three podcasts we have coming out of the Grizz 901 podcast. You can find us anywhere you can find podcasts. Check those out. Two things I'm going to hit on real quick. The Grizz 901 merch, it's all done finally. It looks good. I'm actually going to pick up a new shirt that has the brand new logo on it. And from then on, we're going to be putting out other designs. So now our design, our Grizz 901 design is done. You can find it at grindcitydesigns.com/Grizz901. That's where you get all kind of Grizz 901 merch, grindcitydesigns.com/Grizz901s. And then also our sponsor is Zach Jaworski State Farm. You can give them a call at 901-459-4227, ZachInsuresMemphis.com. If you need any kind of insurance at all in the local Memphis area, hit up my guy, Zach. Tell him the Grizz 901 team sent you. They will hook you up, I promise. He's my guy. He can be your guy. 901-459-4227, Zach, Z-A-C-H, ZachInsuresMemphis.com. All right, game predictions, and we'll get out of here. We're closing in on 40 minutes. Game predictions with the Grizzlies taking on the Timberwolves. This is Wednesday. Ryan, do you know what day it is right now?
Sunday?
Why in the world do the Grizzlies have literally 2 days off? Like, that doesn't happen, especially if they're on the road. So is it like a slap in the face? Like, hey, you have 2 days off, but you got to go to Minnesota.
Yeah. I actually hate that I actually hate that they have 2 days off.
Yes.
I would much rather just have the 1-day rest because early in the season, they were much better, like, on a 1-day rest team versus a 2-day rest team. But I'm not sure the Timberwolves schedule heading into that. I'll have to check that in a
Monday
little
at
bit.
Wizards.
Okay. So they do play Monday and coming back.
Yep.
So I certainly think that's a little bit of an advantage playing most recently for the Timberwolves. So I would expect the Timberwolves kind of start out a little better, but I also think the Timberwolves suck. And I think the Grizzlies will ultimately win that game. It might be a second half kind of comeback thing. But I certainly do not like the Timberwolves. I mean, in the first meeting, Anthony Edwards went off. Man, got something in my throat. Anthony Edwards went off, and we know Karl Anthony Towns fouled out. So I would usually say this is a revenge spot for Cat, but Cat is not that kind of guy. So I really don't know what to expect from him, except he might actually foul out again. So, of course, we don't care about Rudy. We'll abuse Rudy. Jaden McDaniels has been up and down. And, of course, the whole game really depends on D'Angelo Russell to me. Like, if D'Angelo Russell is bad, the Grizzlies are going to win pretty decidedly. If he's okay, then it's probably a game. And if he's just awesome, then the Timberwolves might actually win it. So that's probably who I'm most interested by in the matchup. But I think the Grizzlies win. I could see Timberwolves starting a little hotter, maybe getting like a 7 to 10 point lead, and then, it evaporates quickly. But I'm expecting a Grizz win for sure, because I just think the Timberwolves, the experiment has gone wrong and it has failed miserably, and it is not going to get better.
Yeah, it's bad. So the Grizzlies, they won 114 to 103 in the last meeting. And like you said, it was Edwards that went off. He was the big player, 28 points in that game, 3 or 4 from deep, which was weird that he was 3 or 4 and 10 of 16 overall. He just couldn't miss, in all honesty. And the rest of the guys really did nothing. Like you said, like Towns was completely taken out of it by his foul trouble. And then Rudy was held to 6 rebounds, which is awesome. And I'm curious to see if he's going to have a little bit of that fire coming and wanting a little bit of a payback, especially at home. What does Steve-O do? Is Steve-O able to kind of keep him off the glass? But last game they didn't have Jaren, and they did have Aldama starting, but they also had Bane playing. So you're going to trade out Bane for Conchar and Aldama for Jaren. I actually think that's worse, personally, if it was me saying, like, and I know that probably sounds bad, but I would rather have Bane playing over Jaren, especially right
Absolutely.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
especially against a team. Yeah. Especially against a team like this. But the biggest thing with this is they do have a decent bench, and they're going to be at home. And, I guess bench players play better at home for the most part.
Yep.
So I would say that just being careful on that one, because those 6 minutes, those 12 total minutes that Ja is usually out of the game are going to be the most important, especially in Minnesota, a crowd that doesn't like the Grizzlies, a little bit of the budding rivalry that we have. I think it's going to be very important. I think it's going to be a good, fun game. But the cool thing is we do have 2 Minnesota guys, and that is Tyus and that's Roddy. Like, they're both going back, and I believe this is going to be their first game playing, or I guess it's Roddy's first game back playing in Minnesota with the Grizzlies. So that'll be cool. I don't think anything extra will come out of it as long as the guys stay healthy for the most part. I think he'll play his normal 15-ish minutes, but it'd be cool to see him going back home. So anything else you have? I want to hit on our Grizzly player watch stuff real quick, but anything else you have?
The Jaren Jackson Jr. and Karl Anthony Towns guarding each other thing has real 10 out of 10 comedy potential. That's all I'm going to say, because either one or both are going to have some of the most hilariously dumb fouls, and they're going to get upset at them. and it's going to be really entertaining. It's like a foul off. Like
Yes.
who's going to have the dumbest foul of the night?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, that's always fun. We'll see how that goes. But last thing is the Grizzlies player watch. We try to put this out, I'd say an hour or more if possible. But with the NBA injury reports happening tonight, I think I got it out 30 minutes before game time. It was tough because one, I was traveling to my in-laws' house, but they literally did not release any props for the Knicks, and so I was trying to hold off because all I had was Grizzlies, and I was trying to do Mitchell Robinson blocks, and so finally that came through, and Ryan talked me out of doing 2 Jaren props. But either way, I picked the blocks. I shouldn't have. I should have picked the points, but I thought that's what the one you were telling me to not do. Just by just thinking the way you were thinking. But tonight we scored 2-2, so now our record is 44-29. I think we've only had 2 losing nights overall, and so for the most part, we've been 3-1 a lot, weirdly enough, and then 4-0. I think we've hit 4-0 4 different times on our bets. But also I cashed tonight on the Grizzlies' first team to 25, which was it was kind of touch and go for a second. But we cashed on Conchar over 8.5 points, cashed on Mitchell Robinson over 1.5 blocks. We also had Conchar for 2+ 3-pointers. He hit 1, feeling good. And literally, I think he took 1, maybe 2 more at the max. Like he was not shooting a lot from deep. It just wasn't the flow in the game. And the other one was Jaren over 3 or more blocks that he's had for every game this year. I don't think he ended up with any blocks, which is a weird night for him. So, yeah, good times. I don't know. I'm going to look at Kyle Anderson rebounds for the Minnesota Timberwolves game. I think it's going to happen.
And assists, maybe?
Not assists because they don't like pass the ball to each other, but
he's the only one that will.
He will pass it, and if it's 2 or more, yes, I'll take it. But if I see a 5 or more rebounds for Kyle Anderson, I'm hopping on that 100%. Bring back KA back to us.
Yeah.
All right. Shout out Slow-Mo. Shout out to for Ian and everybody else that would join us in the chat, Chris, and all our fun people, especially with Grizz Lead. Thanks for hanging out. But and shout out to our guy Nate, who cannot figure out his mic stuff. The last podcast he was on, it was horrible. So we thought we had it worked out, but tonight it was not. So, but that's all we have. Thank you for joining us, and make sure you go like, subscribe, rate, review anytime you can. You can find us anywhere. You can find podcasts. We'll have this coming out shortly via podcast. So go check that out. And if you're hearing on podcast, make sure you stop by and listen to us after game. We'll be on here. You can chat with us and kind of interact. And eventually, if you're here long enough, maybe we'll throw you out an invite and let you hop on up here and let you talk with us every now and then through a game or so. So that's all we got. Let's have a good night. Be nice and tell your friends.